and a half dad of a 15 and a half year old learning how to drive right now. So although we're in the bitter Arctic of northern Oklahoma, we even had lake effect snow this morning. So yeah, and put my car sideways trying to come into the church parking lot. But, yeah, so I'm in track 3 on CCR and learning a lot about myself during this time. I'll succeed the rest of my time.
All right, who would you invite, Brian?
Well, I only see Hode here, so I'll invite him.
Thank you. All right, here it goes. So my name is Hode Kim, and I'm currently serving as a full-time local pastor in the Eastern Shore District of Virginia Conference. This is my third year serving a 3-point charge, still in the learning process. I am in track 2 of CCR, and excitingly, this, well, in, uh, in a couple weeks, well, since like last couple weeks, I had been assigned to a mentee. So I didn't have a mentee before, but now I have a mentee. So I'm excited to go through this journey together with him. And I am a strong S and a moderate C. So I'm an SC. So um, you might already know by now how I work, how I do things, but um, throughout the year and a half of being in the CCR program, I've been really working and stretching my boundaries to um, a D style that I'm not very comfortable with. So, and I've seen some good, I've heard some good responses and feedback that, yeah, I am improving and I am making that cultural shift and cultural shift also in the matrix in my congregation. So, yeah, I am having a good time so far learning, and I'm glad to be here. There you go.
Look at that, right on the dot. Yeah,
Yeah. You said
perfect.
you're in a 3-point charge.
Yes, I am.
Wow.
Do you visit all 3 of those churches each Sunday?
Yes.
Okay.
I have 3 services. I deliver 3 sermons. Thank God it is all the same sermons.
Well, I was often asked when I had multiple charges if I preached the same sermon at each church. I said, well, I take the same notes into the pulpit. It didn't always come out the same way, but
Right.
yeah. And I guess I should say I'm a CS. I forgot to mention that part of who I am. I'm trying to be more of a D and an I a little bit.
And I love it because I think Chris, who's in Ohio, is he a D? No, he's a C, moderately inclined. So his shading goes into the I quite a bit. So that'll be a good challenge for you to work together. And then Brian, Beth Faisal is an IS or SI, I believe.
I think she said SI yesterday when we talked.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So,
moderately inclined.
mhm.
Yeah.
So it'll be really great for you two to, you will stretch yourself, and you can always ask them too, if I were in this situation, what would I share, or how could I practice the platinum rule with a person of your style? So it's always great to be able to stretch in that way. Um, Thank you for letting me record. I just decided to hit record because Jared and Selah, if they're both not here, I thought I could just send them the recording and then answer their questions from there. That might be easier than having to meet with both of them, find another time. So I'll just say a little bit about myself. And well, and Hode, how old are your kids before we move forward?
Um, my daughter is 2 years old, and my son is 8 months. I mean, 10 months. Yes.
Yeah.
Going on 5 already, I'm sure, in this pandemic.
Yeah, so you're busy. And are you married to a pastor as well? Is that correct?
No, no.
You're
I'm
not.
married to an opera singer.
Oh,
Are you really?
Yeah, we actually met in a choir when we were both going to church, our church that we grew up in Korea, and that's how we met. And then, she came here to study as well in music, and then yeah, that's how things got started.
Well, that is so interesting. I have a master's in vocal performance,
Oh
so
wow,
I
really?
don't do much with it anymore.
Oh,
But yeah, I definitely know that. I understand that world and
I
the
would
time it takes to
really,
practice. And
yeah, I would really love to hear you sing sometime.
oh, well, thank you. Thank
She
you.
does it. She does it well, Jose.
I
I'd
believe
love to
you.
hear your wife sing. That sounds, we'll have to talk more about that later.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear her as well. So I'm Marybeth Taylor. I I started in creating culture for Noel in 2012 and went through all three tracks. And I was invited by my senior pastor who said she had just finished track one, well, or the first year. I don't even know if there was a track two and a track three at that point.
Yeah.
Rebecca was writing it, as she was going along. And so my senior pastor said, do this. And I really respected her. I was like, okay. So I didn't know much about it. But I remember sitting in the parlor of First Methodist at Casper around the square of 8-foot tables in their conference room. And I just thought, I would love to do what Rebecca does. And then when I completed in the spring of 2015, she was starting to take on faculty and apprentice them. And so I waited a year and then I jumped into being faculty. So I've been leading since January of 2017. And oh gosh, I've led all of the track one of those. And then two or three of the track two. And this year I'm leading, I'm apprenticing for track three. And I also lead a workshop called the Platinum Rule, where you take kind of what you learn about and go through the disc in a workshop session. And I've been being trained in that and leading that. And that's been a lot of fun to have people understand the Platinum Rule right off the bat. And I live in Denver, Colorado. And my husband and I are fostering to adopt two boys, 14 and 9. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you. Yeah, it's something. So, and I love it and I love them and I learn something new about myself every day. It's all about, how I'm going to grow to be able to help them grow. So, I want to make sure that we cover everything that you want to know about mentoring. Um, Here's a little bit of what we're going to cover. And then you can tell me if there's anything else that I've missed that you want to make sure that I answer. And I'm hoping we're done around 9:30, 9:40. I don't think we'll be more than a half an hour from this point. Um, so I'll talk to you about how to find the mentor contact sheets and where you find those and how you fill them out and how you label them and get them back to me. We'll talk about the preferences between Zoom or phone when you mentor someone. We'll talk about what you need to request from your mentee, like their profiles and what you need to ask them to send to you. We'll talk a little bit about myeverythingdisc.com and how you can get comparison reports with them. Then, and I think that's basically, we're going to cover all of that by starting in the track 2 workbook on chapter 2 and go through the mentoring process that the chapter walks you through. And just learning about the best tips for mentoring. So is there anything else that you want to cover that I
Sounds pretty comprehensive to my knowledge right now.
okay? And then, if there is, I'll ask at the end. And if you've got a question as I'm moving through, don't hesitate to interrupt me. Go ahead and interrupt me. That doesn't bother me.
You know
Okay.
me.
Okay, I know. I mentor Brian, and so it's perfect. We've got this open and direct relationship. So I would invite you both to mute unless you're going to ask a question just for the recording, so we don't have any background noise. And I do need to say that Best Buy is supposed to be dropping off a microwave to me between 7 a.m. and 1 o'clock a.m. And I figure they're going to come in the next 30 minutes because, that's how that goes. But anyway, I thought I'd tell you that just in case they do ring the doorbell. They just have to do a drop off and pick up the old microwave. So just in case. So what I'd like to do to start is have you turn in your Track 2 workbook to Chapter 2. And that's page 27. Do you both have this? Just give me a thumbs up if you've got it. Got it? Okay, great. So we'll just start at setting the stage. Dictionary.com defines a mentor as a wise and trusted counselor or teacher, or an influential senior sponsor or supporter. And I think it's good to note, what is the difference between a mentor and a coach? A coach asks a lot of questions. When you're trained as a coach, you're invited not to share your own opinion. It's really about the person and what's coming, what God is leading them to from within them. And now, as a mentor, you're the expert of creating a culture of renewal. And so you have already completed Track 1 and possibly Track 2. And that brings you to them with expertise. So you are there to do deep listening, to contemplate what they're saying, pray for them, with them. And there are times that Rebecca and I want you to lean in and share your expertise with your mentee. And you may have to say something like, "Can I be direct with you?" Or, "May I share my experience with you?" And challenge them sometimes. So it's kind of a journeying with that. You don't want to tell them what to do, and yet sometimes there are things that you have to share as the expert. So it's kind of a both and. One thing Rebecca and I would say, well, Rebecca's told me this within her 10 years of creating a culture of renewal, she's maybe had 2 or 3 people say, "My mentor challenged me too much." That never happens. Rarely, I'll say rarely happens that a mentee says, "My mentor challenged me too much." Typically what they say is, "My mentor didn't challenge me enough." So lean in. You can ask them if you can challenge them, if you can raise the bar for them, however you want to phrase it. Just all that to say, Rebecca and I want you to be bold with your mentee. Don't hold back. And let the Spirit guide you if you need to be a prophet to them, if you need to share something with them, and be there pastorally as well. So on page, let's move on to page 31. Now, Brian, it sounds like maybe you and Beth have had a welcome call, or you've learned a little bit about each other.
Yeah, we did that yesterday afternoon.
Okay, great. And Hode, if you have or haven't talked to Chris, you have to? Okay, great. So there's a little bit of information here on page 31 about the welcome call. And I'll just say this for the recording purposes. If you haven't done a welcome call, Selah or Jared, with your mentee, take about 15 minutes in your first mentoring session with them to go through 31 and 32. And on 32, you'll see here are some things to discover in the welcoming call or the conversation with your mentee. So Brian and Hode, if you happen to miss any of these questions in particular, just open with some of these and get them covered if it's helpful. This is the piece that reminds you to find out about their disc style. And what I'll send you all an email when we're done. So you can take a couple of notes on your own, but I'll send you this in an email as well. You need to request from them their myeverythingdisc.com, their everything disc workplace profile that they take in Track 1. And right now, that's the only disc profile that you need to get from them, since all your people are in Track 1. So the My Everything Disc workplace profile.
Are you still using the like the comparison everything just where you can trade
Yes.
comparisons?
Yes. And let me, while you have that question,
Mhm.
let me just pull up, I'm going to share my screen. So on myeverythingdisc.com, when you, and Brian, can you mute? Thank you. When you ask them to send you their My Everything Disc workplace profile, you can also ask them to go to myeverythingdisc.com, and you can see that in the middle of the page here, you can invite others to compare. So have them invite you, or you can even do it while you're on the phone. You can invite them or they can invite you. And then if you have your privacy settings so that anyone can invite you, it'll just automatically generate. If you don't have it set that way, make sure you all check your junk mail in the next couple of days to see if that came through, and make sure that that comparison report happens. It's very, very helpful to be able to see. I was going to see, Brian, if we, Hode, have you had much experience with myeverythingdisc.com?
Well, yes, a little bit. I think I did this when I first started track one, and isn't this the one that you invite your congregation, your parishioners to, you know, do the same what you're doing and kind of um, figure out who you're working with and who has what style and how they're what role they're serving. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, that's correct. Excellent. And I'll just show you right now I thought maybe I could find yours, Brian. I don't see it right here. I'll show you my comparison report between me and my spouse. And I'm the black dot, and he's the one that's white with his initials, Steve Cummins. And then right here, once you get your comparison report with your mentee, you can choose from these categories: building relationships, getting buy-in, giving and receiving feedback, managing tension, and working on a project. And these reports are so cool because each person will get one that's geared to what they need to read to understand how to practice the platinum rule with the other person. So when Steve reads, he's going to read the information that's going to help him communicate with me, and I'm going to read information that's going to help me communicate with him. So even though our dots are pretty close together, we have totally different statements and tips. And so it's really cool. And you can go through that together if you like. And so that's how you can build those reports.
I was just reviewing our report, and the only thing we have in common is that we're both unstructured.
Yeah. Which is so interesting. Yeah. So I find them very helpful. And I've used these. I've purchased extra ones for like marriage counseling and marriage coaching when I work with different people as well. So they're very helpful. And I will just say, always know that if your mentee wants to purchase more disc profiles, all they need to do is email Anne, and she will set them up with how much they cost and tell them how they can request those. So back to page 32. Thank you for that, Brian. So you're requesting their profile and you're requesting that they do a comparison report with you. So you can get those. And then under this section, it's the last bullet point: clarify your role as a mentor with them. And here's what they can expect from you. Each month, you will facilitate a discussion on how to apply what they've learned in the previous month and help them create an action plan and implement it together. Together, you'll be working through the section in the Track 1 workbook called Work with Mentor. The following week, they will put their action plan into practice. And that's under the section Action and Application. So you want to remind your mentee that they are always to call you. And you're going to facilitate the learning, and it's up to them to take the actions. So let's move on to page 33, and then in a little bit, we'll come back on how to fill out the mentor contact sheet. So on page 33, you see the 10 steps for successful mentoring. prepare, share, provide, stay, focused, punt, speak up, and stick to the material at hand. And the punt and speak up, I've already spoken to that pretty much. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut. And there may be a month that they're really struggling or they seem off track. You can pause and you can just have a time of meditation and prayer with them if you need to. Just write it in your mentor contact sheet. You don't want every month to be that way, but you've got to go with the spirit and you've got to go with what you think your mentee needs. Then on page 34, you've got communicate and then block off 30 minutes after the call. And we'll talk about that now as we get into the mentor contact sheet. On the middle of page 34, you see how to label the mentor contact sheet. The example here is Bugs Bunny, mentoring, Mickey Mouse, 2 dashes, and then the date with the month, then the day, then the year. And please follow the capitalization as well. I use these to, when they're specifically created this way, they file for me better and I can find them easier. So thank you for doing that. So you may want to dog-ear this page if you need a reminder on how to label. Now, this is labeling you label your email. This is a note you may need to add to the information here. This is how I'd like you to label the email to me and the document. So once you've labeled the document, you can just cut and paste that and put it into the subject line for the email when you send it to me. Now we're going to look at the mentor contact sheet. You can see an example here. I'm going to pull up Entreport, which is our place where we create the landing pages for you. So how this works for you is this is your CCR login. When you go to the Creating a Culture of Renewal page and you log in to find your Zoom link for your meetings, this is what we're going to look at right now. I'm just pulling it up through the faculty, kind of the back door to get to everything. So give me just 10 or 15 seconds here to pull up what I want to show you. So for Brian and Jared, we're going to look at the track 3 page first. So this is track 3. And I'll just remind you all, we would love to have any or all of you as faculty. So if you're interested in being faculty, please come to this informational meeting. Each one of you would be excellent. On March 11th. So when you scroll down, this is track 3, you'll click the button on the left here for your documents. This is where you'll find your culture shifting matrix and so on and so forth. You click here and the very first document you have to access is your mentor contact sheet. So the mentor contact sheet, this is a writable PDF. So you will need to download this to your desktop or your laptop and save it. Then fill it out and make duplicate copies from your computer. Otherwise, if you fill it out here, it doesn't save. And I've had people try to email it to me and it's all their information is gone. So please make sure to download it to your desktop or laptop. And you can see here, you've got your mentor contact sheet, mentor name, mentee name, date of the call, and then the length of how long you talked. How's it going with the program? This is when you ask about their buddy. How's it going with the mentoring? Are is there anything you need to ask me as a mentor? The group meetings, which are the webinars and the workbook assignments. This is when you'll typically find out if anyone's disgruntled about the program, if their buddy has disappeared on them, if their mentor, well, you're all mentoring track 1 people, but for further reference, if their mentee that they had in the, like Beth Feisel that you're mentoring, Brian, her mentor. She doesn't seem fazed by it right now when I asked her, but her mentor just quit calling her. So this is when you'll find out if there's anything that they're maybe frustrated about. Please write it down. I read every one of these, and then that way I can step in and ask how I can be of support, if there's anything they need. Do they need a new buddy? Be in contact with their faculty, so on and so forth. Then what and how. This first month, you're not going to have anything in this blank. You can take notes here if you want, but this is where the action items, you're going to cut and paste them and put them when you need to do follow-up. You've got the number 5 chapter number and title for this month. And then number 6, 3 accountable actions to be taken this month, how and by when. Now, when you're getting ready for March, you'll take your 3 accountable items from this spot and you're going to put them, you're going to cut and paste them into number 4. So when you meet with them in March, you can ask them, did you do this? Did you get all your disc profiles from your church members? Have you met with your vision team? Did you try preaching, from the different styles? Whatever their action items are, you cut and paste it in here. And then the notes you can put, yes, they did it. No, they didn't. Yes, they did. And really have strong accountability, and they'll start to know that you're going to ask them about specific things. Okay, then number 7, 3 areas of the mentee's growth and progress. This is really important. A lot of people, especially church leaders, do not want to brag about themselves. So the reason that this is here is for them to really celebrate what they're accomplishing and how they are growing. And that they'll see that throughout the months. And by the time they finish, they should have, 16 to 20 different ways that they've seen their growth and progress. Now, if somebody says something like, well, next month I'm going to do blah, 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 blah. No, that's just like a to-do list of things that they think they still need to accomplish. No, this needs to be something such as, well, Sally and I, when I first started my appointment here a year ago, she always had something to complain about. She was like my nemesis. Now, Sally and I, she's like my biggest supporter. I realize she's a D and I'm an S, and I've just been more direct with her. That's a win. That's what you want to put down here in growth and progress. And that's what they can also put on their culture shifting matrix. That's a qualitative thing they can put on their culture shifting matrix. Then you want to put in number 8, my learnings and progress as a mentor. How are you stretching yourself? Did you have to challenge your mentee? Did you focus on listening more this month to let them have a little bit of time to just verbally process something? And then the things you want to remember for the next time. Are there prayer requests? You can pray at the beginning of your time with your mentee. You can pray at the end. It's up to you. And find out what's going on in their world and things that you want to remember. Sometimes people put when the next time they're going to meet in this blank. So you also have on page 35 in the workbook, you have an example mentor contact sheet that's been filled out, and you can see that as an example for you. Now, this is your mentor contact sheet. And like it said in the tips for mentoring, you want to go through the work with mentor section. So it's twofold when you mentor. You have your mentor contact sheet and you have your chapter open to the work with mentor section. So please turn to page 40. They will have filled this out before they meet with you. So you can just have them, you can just say to them, open to page 40. Now let's just take 2 minutes for each of these. Tell me what you wrote for number 1. Tell me what you wrote for number 2. And then you can ask them questions. Basically, what I want you to know is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to come up with your own questions. If you ever wonder what to ask them about, this is it, the work with mentor. this is what you want to focus on. And this is also where you're going to get your 3 action items. Because if you look then at page 42, number 5 is note the spiritual practices you're committing to. And that can be one of their action items. So 2 of the action items they can come up with on their own. And one of them would be, what is your commitment to your spiritual growth? How often are you going to do that? What's it going to look like? And also this is you getting to know them and how they're growing. So Brian, you are already going to start meeting with Beth on chapter 7. So you may have to do a little catch up and ask her, what are the spiritual practices that you're incorporating now? What are you doing to bring you joy? Have you taken all of your vacation? That's a really important question to ask church leaders. Many do not take it. And you need to be taking your own. First, you can't ask your mentee to do something that you aren't doing yourself. So you'll back away, right? It's like pledging or giving. You'll back off from it because you're not doing it either. So you need to be taking your own vacation and you need to ask them if they're taking theirs. Okay. And that can be an action item. By when will you schedule your final 2 weeks of vacation? And then ask them until every month until they take it. Okay. So that's just an example. So let me just stop. Well, I'm going to stop sharing, but I do want to go. I'm going to take questions in just a second. So Hode, yours and Jared and Selah, when you watch this, Brian's going to find his mentor contact sheet on his landing page, which is for track 3. And then what your page is going to look like is this. It's probably going to look pretty much the same, but I just want to make sure. Oh, it's Brian and Jared are on track 3. And then Selah and Hode, here's your page. It pretty much looks the same. Got the faculty information. This, when you log in, Selah and Hode, this is welcome to your track 2 learning platform. And you'll go down and here are it looks a little different than track 3. So track 2 preparation and participation, you'll go to documents and videos. Oh, please click here for documents. And then you can see mentor contact sheet is the very first thing. And just click there and it'll come up. Okay. Just wanted you to see that. Now, do you have questions about the mentor contact sheet or the work with mentor? What can I answer for you? Anything? Not right now?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'll probably have a lot of questions as I start this, but I don't think I have anything right now. Maybe I need to.
No, not a problem. I'm kind of that way too. Like as I get into it and I start doing it, then I have questions, which is totally understandable. You all can call me anytime. I respond to text fastest. If you need something like right away, text me. Email or phone otherwise. And let's see. I was thinking that we could also schedule another meeting that I'll be available, maybe like an office hour, and you all can pop in and ask questions. Just let you know when I'm available. And if you need anything, you can let me know. Okay. So a lot of was there something?
I was just gonna say for me, this isn't exactly new because I haven't mentored one other person, but this is we had to manually do the contact sheet last time I did it. So
Exactly. And I will tell you all that the track 2 and track 3 workbooks have gotten an upgrade, like in the writing of them, to pull the vision thread through more from track 2 all the way into track 3. So and the track 1, not so much, it's gotten an upgrade on how it looks, but not quite as much in the writing of it. What you do need to do, so Brian, like I said, Beth will be on chapter 7. So, just skim through some of it, make sure that you've, read 6 and 7, especially, yeah, just to get caught up. And then Hode, Jared, and Selah, you're all starting with someone that was in the January cohort. So they did chapters 1, 2, and 3 at the opening retreat. So when you meet with them, it's going to be chapter 4. So read everything up to chapter 4, just so that you're caught up and you're reminded of what's there. And it's totally up to you if you want to meet by Zoom or phone with your mentee. I typically meet by phone. One person requested Zoom from me, and I did that for a few months, and then I went back to phone. And here's why. And like I said, it's totally up to you. Why I do it by phone is I like to have my phone on speaker when I'm in my home office and have the mentor contact sheet pulled up in front of me. That way I'm filling it out as I'm talking to them on the phone. Because what I'd like you to do is have 30 extra minutes after your call with your mentee to fill out the mentor contact sheet and email it to me right then. Now you have 24 hours to send it in. If you can't get it in within 24 hours, just shoot me an email and say, hey, I'll have it to you by Tuesday at 5:00. Whatever, just so I know it's coming. But if you can send it in 30 minutes after you're done, like it's just done and you've got all that fresh information, it's right on the page. And when you're typing, everybody knows now that we have a mentor contact sheet. It's not a surprise. Everybody knows they're going to mentor and there's a process. So you can say to your mentee, oh, hey, hold on just a second. I want to make sure I capture what you just said. And what was that date again? Oh, March 11th. Yep. Okay. I got that down. March 11th. And by what time? Great. 3:00 p.m. You'll email me that. Okay. Fantastic. So there's no harm in saying, hey, hold on a second while I type this. And that's perfectly fine. And you're teaching them what they're going to do when they start mentoring. So that's a good thing. You're teaching them these tools. So that's just my preferences by phone. Now, you email the mentor contact sheet to me, Marybeth at RebeccaSimonPeter.com, and I will give you feedback. What I've been doing is I number everything out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to coincide with the numbers on the mentor contact sheet. And if there's something that I want you to take notice of in one of those sections, I'll write it in bold. And if you don't have anything written down, then hey, I'll just put great work and keep at it and I'll give you feedback. So make sure you read the feedback before you go into the next session. And usually I do, 1 or 2 months at a time. So if you don't hear from me until a second month, don't be surprised. But if you have a question right away, or maybe you think your mentee is struggling, just reach out to me or put attention and, hey, Marybeth, read this right away, and I'll read it and give you immediate feedback. But we just want to make sure you're on track and that everything's going well for both of you in the program. Let me see. I feel like there was one thing I was going to tell you. If I think of something else, I'll put it in the email to you. I'm going to send you an email about what you need to request from your person. And is there anything else you can think of right now?
Marybeth, it says here on page 32, before you begin, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, saying create a comparison report. on myeverythingthis.com. Does this mean to create a report between you and your mentee, or um, is there another meaning to this?
That is you and your mentee.
Okay. So I will have to invite him to do this.
Right. So when you meet the first time or before you meet, you can ask them to invite you so they can practice,
Okay.
or you can go ahead and invite them. It's totally up to you how you want to do it.
Okay.
And then just make sure that you check your junk email in case the comparison goes there.
Mhm.
If it doesn't automatically pop up on your myeverythingdis.com page.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, and that reminded me of what I was going to say. You're going, there'll be times that your mentee is working on something in the chapter, and you just want to remember to request those things. So one would be the culture shifting matrix, and you can tell them if you want it 24 hours in advance or 48 hours in advance or by 1 hour in advance. It's totally up to you, but make sure you communicate how you want the documents sent so you have time to look at them and get familiar. So that's one thing I would add. Well, we've gone 4 minutes past the 30 minutes I said it might take. And I want to be cognizant of your time as well. So like I said, if there's anything else you need, text me, call me, send me an email. And I will send out an email when we're done right now about just some of the basic notes that I shared with you today. Is there anything else that I can answer? Okay, well, God be with you as you move forward to mentor your mentee, and know that there's a whole community of people surrounding you and cheering you on. And may the love and grace of Jesus Christ be with you until we meet again.
Thank you very much for the session, Marybeth.
You're
Appreciate
very
you.
welcome. You're welcome. All right. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you both later.